Thank you so much for joining us for the Nido office hours. This happens every Friday. It's 10:30 Pacific, and we hop on Easy Webinar and answer any questions that you've submitted. We also go over what's happened this week from a content perspective and a course perspective, and we also touch on things that are trending. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Calendly because I've had some support requests from Calendly specifically, and not in a general sense either. We're going to dive deep on how to use Calendly to schedule tours for specific classrooms, which is something that one of our members came up with, which I'm really excited about. Um, so without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, the very first thing I want to go over is the Nido marketing blog. Hopefully you're getting all of the blog updates as a Nido member. If you're not, you can change your subscription settings, and you can do that by going to the account section inside of Nido. And just make sure that you're subscribed to ongoing updates, because as we post blogs, you can get these straight into your email. We have Matt's news that you can use. This goes out once a week. We're aiming for every Tuesday or Wednesday, but him being as busy as he is, sometimes it gets out a little bit late. This one went out on Thursday, and in it we talk about Google Alerts and Google Maps. So we're Google heavy here at Nido, and that's for good reason. Google drives the vast majority of people's attention. When somebody has a question, problem, concern, issue in life, Google has become sort of the cultural conduit through which we travel. And because of that, it's really important that we play nice with the Google machine. As Montessori schools specifically, we're dealing with a very educated consumer base. Our parents are they're not your typical parents. And I don't mean that to sound elitist at all. I just mean that this is a group of people that they do their homework, they do their research, and the way that that is done more often than not is through a Google search. At least it starts there. That's typically how it's catalyzed. And then sometimes you'll see that parents will take that a step further and look for social proof, ask friends and family. And of course, start visiting schools. But at the very beginning, it's going to begin with Google as a utility. And so, what we want to do is make sure that we're being compliant with what Google wants to see, and that we're also monitoring what's happening on Google. And one of the best ways to do that is with a tool called Google Alerts. And we're going to have a course on this come out. It'll probably be the second quarter of this year. But Google Alerts is a tool that allows you to create key phrase alerts, and you get to monitor the web for just about anything that you want. So I can come in here and say Montessori, just as a blanket key phrase. If I want to monitor the web for any mention of the term Montessori, I can add Montessori and say create alert, and I now have an alert. And because I'm logged into my Google account and Google knows who I am, it's going to automatically create that on my behalf in my profile. So as long as you're logged into your Google account, you should be able to jump in and create Google Alerts with relative ease. Now, you don't want to just genericize your search. The other thing that you'd like to do is make sure to create Google Alerts for your own name. So I'll come in here and say Nido Marketing, and I'm going to create a Google Alert for Nido Marketing. Now, here's a pro tip. Nido Marketing, you'll notice when I came up, there's some things that are here. These results are just obviously not relevant to me. So what I might be able to do is add quotes to Nido Marketing. And now the only alerts I'm going to get are alerts that mention Nido specifically. So anytime you add quotes, and this is true for almost the entire Google ecosystem, when you add quotes around a key phrase, this makes it an exact match key phrase. And I can define the specific parameters around the alerts. How often I want to see these alerts. So we can say as it happens for something like Nido, because there aren't going to be too many alerts around it. If this was for the key phrase Montessori school, I'm not going to want to get an update every single time it happens, because you might get an update every few minutes, depending on how much content is being created. So you could have like a daily digest or a weekly digest, which is probably what I would prefer for our broader key phrases. But for my own brand, I'm going to want to be updated as it happens, because people are probably not mentioning my brand too often just yet. Hopefully that changes soon. But I want to know what they're saying, and I want to know as soon as they're saying it. The sooner I have this feedback, the sooner I'll be equipped to respond. You want to do this for the name of your school. So, if I'm Matt Hillis, I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to say Bergamo schools. And what I might do is add a few variations. Maybe I'll say Bergamo Montessori, et cetera, et cetera. Not every alert is going to be applicable to you, of course. Sometimes there are going to be key phrase mentions that just coincidentally cross paths with the name of your school or the name of your brand. But you do want to be cognizant that this is happening. This is one of the really good ways that you can get in front of online reviews. Our third plane and fourth plane members have access to a dashboard tool that we provide that helps alert them to reviews that have been placed on their online profiles. But even past that, sometimes you'll get reviews placed on profiles that you don't own. One of the more notorious ones out there is a site called Ripoff Report, and they're semi-famous for holding people hostage. And they just let any Yahoo who wants to go online and post mean, nasty things about people, and they get to do so anonymously. And then Ripoff Report won't. They refuse to arbitrate or take the content off of their site. So they're not the greatest people in the whole wide world. And if something like that takes place, is school administrators know acutely you can't make everybody happy. And so when somebody says something about you online, you want to be made aware of it immediately, because the sooner you're made aware of it, the sooner you can take action, whatever that necessary action may be. A few little notes here. You can define the language. This is probably not exceptionally pertinent unless you start getting alerts that are in a foreign language. So Nido is an interesting example, actually. Nido being an Italian word. We might need to come here and specify the fact that we need this in English. We can define the region, the country that we want to receive alerts from, which I recommend setting to be the States. And then I like the only the best results section from Google. Google does a tremendous job at cataloging content. That's their entire job, actually. So when Google says, hey, we're going to be able to provide you what we think is relevant, I am inclined to trust them. And then we get to tell them, hey, this is who we want this alert to go to. And I'm going to go ahead and create this alert now. And now anytime there's a mention of Nido marketing, I'm going to get an email, which is helpful. I'm going to remove this Montessori alert because that might be too broad for me. And you can do this for anything. You can do it for your name, which is also probably pretty helpful, the name of your staff potentially. If you have a really generic name, Jane Smith, that might be difficult. I've got a very unique name, lucky me. So if I add my name here, then you'll see the only things that come up, like my LinkedIn profile, my website, a site that did a little profile on me. And this would be a really good alert for me to set. And incidentally, I actually have another Google profile where I have all my real Google alerts set, but I'm just using this as an example. So strongly recommend that you go to Google Alerts and create alerts for terms and key phrases that you want to stay up to date on. You might also even include your competitors' names. If there are schools in town or close to you that are just really good at what they do, they've got great PR, great outreach, great content. If you want to, stalk them ethically, this is a good way to do it, because you kind of get to keep a finger to the pulse and just remain cognizant of what's going on, who's doing what, and that way you're never left in the lurcher. You don't get surprised. So really cool ninja tool that we can use. It's completely free, which is awesome. Like all things Google, you don't have to pay for it. At least on the front end. They'll find a way on the back end. I've heard often, and I kind of like this saying, if you don't know what the product is, you are the product. And that tends to be true with Google and Facebook. Because we're not paying for anything, we really become the product. So when you program information in to Google information like this, what you're really doing is telling Google what you're interested in. And maybe more to the point, you're telling them how to advertise to you, which is I kind of like that, to be frank. I like the fact that I'm going to see ads, and so I can make them more relevant. But there's also a privacy concern and privacy issue here that is always worth discussing. So just the soft note I would make is, as you program information in, like the information we're discussing, realize that you're being tracked, and that information is being cataloged. And if that concerns you, then I would recommend not using a tool like this. But for terms like this that are generic and already tethered to my account, I don't see anything wrong with it. That's my personal opinion. The other thing that we talked about in the most recent blog was Google Maps, adding Google Maps to your school's site. And this is exceptionally important for a number of reasons. Google catalogs just about everything online. And what they try to do is they try to determine relevance. And relevance is not a static term. Relevance is very contextual. So what's relevant for me might not be relevant for you. And what's relevant for me today might not be relevant tomorrow. But the way they determine relevance is through kind of an algorithmic understanding of the way data works. And I promise I'm not going to say annoying things like that much longer, but here's what I mean. If I say, hey, I'm Bergamo Montessori School, I'm in Sacramento, California, and I think I'm relevant for the term Montessori school, Google's going to go, oh, okay, well, we'll see. And they kind of run me through this litmus test that they have. And one of the ways they test is they want to take a look at things like my contact page or my locations page, as you see here. And they say, are you really in Sacramento? And they've been able to build kind of algorithmic scripting that identifies pages like the locations page and then queries information as to where we're located. Well, when we use their own utility on our site, Google now lands on our site, finds our location page, the crawler finds the location page, and then it sees a collection of contact information, which is great, but it also sees an embedded Google map. Now, the theory is, and I say theory because when we're dealing with SEO, Google hasn't said, hey, here's the algorithm. People have tried to reverse engineer their algorithm based off of kind of trial and error experimentation. So the theory is that when you use a Google map, this sort of helps force that continuity through in kind of the computer's mind. When the computer jumps on the page, if you didn't have the map, if you just have your address, well, that's a point in your favor. Yeah, you're in Sacramento. It says Sacramento on your locations page. We might believe you're in Sacramento, but the minute you have a Google map embed, now it's just one more reason to believe that your location is the location you claim it to be, that you're relevant for anybody who searches in Sacramento, and it gives Google the opportunity to place you in a way that's a little bit easier and more transparent than if they just had to read this text. Now, Google can read this text, and we know for a fact that Google can not only read this text, but will, on their own, will go through kind of a back channel and identify where you are based off of the address you list on your site. But when you embed a Google map, you're telling them automatically, these are the 4 locations of our school. So if somebody searches over in El Dorado Hills, I'm far more likely to rank than if, Google knowing I'm in El Dorado Hills than if I was just, had Sacramento on my contact page. So embedding Google Maps is important. Conveniently, we actually have a course on this, which I'm really excited about because I'm the one that made it. And this is available to our second plane subscribers and above. Really easy, simple, straightforward course on using Google Maps, how to start, which options to use. You'll notice the Bergamo example here is multi-location, but there's also a single location implementation that you see here. So this is probably what you're used to seeing actually when you visit most sites. This is one location. Here's the contact information that kind of helps us loop back around to Google that we were talking about. And this course walks you through both. How to set it up, create a single or multi-location implementation, and then adding that information to your site. This shouldn't take you more than a half hour, I don't think. And it's really important to do. So that's kind of our little Google Suite push. I hope you guys don't mind us drinking the Google Kool-Aid. As you can imagine, we're sort of converts at this point as far as Google is concerned. Another article that I wanted to point out was the Facebook ad campaign tracking. This is critical. If you're running Facebook ad campaigns or if somebody is running them on your behalf. Facebook has the really bad habit, and this is built into the mechanism intentionally, in my opinion. Facebook has the bad habit of reporting on what we call vanity metrics. Vanity metrics are things that get you excited. They sound good, they look good, they feel good, but they don't make any money. And I hate to be so blunt, but that's, it's just the fact of the matter is we're advertising to monetize our service. And vanity metrics aren't monetizable. So a few examples of this. New likes to your Facebook page. There's nothing wrong with those. And so, sometimes it makes sense to pay for them. And I don't mean go pay for fake profiles to like you. I mean pay for the visibility necessary for people who are relevant to like your page. But oftentimes what you'll see agencies do is in order to justify their existence or try to convince you that the campaign is performing in a way that will keep you paying them, they'll place vanity metrics in front of you. So they say things like, oh, look at how many likes we got you, and look, your page engagement is up, and your post engagement is up, and you have this many shares and this many comments, and we've been able to drive this much traffic to your website. Now, all of that is great information, and it's all good stuff. It's the type of thing we want to see. I would actually even call it a predictive indicator for future success, meaning when I see that type of data, it tells me that there's the possibility this campaign can be successful in the future. With that said, it is not success by itself unless the vanity metric they're reporting on is the goal. So if I told somebody, hey, I want more Facebook likes, and then I have more Facebook likes, great, mission accomplished. But that's not what we want as Montessori schools, right? We want attendance, we want enrollment, we want tours. That's what Facebook can give us is the attention of parents who are willing to schedule a tour of our school or an observation of one of our classes. And a like on your Facebook page is not a tour. A like on your Facebook page doesn't get somebody into your class. It doesn't even really necessarily mean that they're going to see your content. It just means that they might be vaguely interested in your content someday. Vanity metrics are dangerous, and it's really important as Montessorians that we know that the way this information is being presented to us is going to impact the decisions that we make. And so see past vanity metrics into what we call actionable metrics. And actionable metrics, this is the collection of data that actually gives you the information necessary to make the right decisions, the technically correct decisions. Actionable metrics in my mind are things like, hey, how many tours do we schedule? How many people filled out our form? How many people called me? How many questions did we get? Comments are that's arbitrary. People commenting on a blog post saying, oh, this is great. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's a potential predictive indicator. But if somebody starts asking buying questions, hey, when does this class start, or when are we able to come in, or do you have an elementary program, or do you have an infant program? Those are actionable data points. If I'm getting things that allow me to move the conversation forward and continue nurturing my prospect down the sales funnel. So just know what type of metrics you're dealing with. There's nothing wrong with vanity metrics, but don't allow anybody to present them to you and act as though they've done their job if those vanity metrics stand alone. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between the two. The way I really like to connect the dots in my mind, though, because I deal with this as well in my own business, is at the end of the day, is the data point I'm looking an indicator that at some point I'm going to make more money. I'm not going to make money on a Facebook like, but I might make money on a school tour. And I know in the Montessori school or Montessori environment in particular, we don't always like referring to monetization and money. And the school's not a business. It's your heart and your home, and everything that you want to do is empathically driven. And I totally understand that. I respect it. That's why we want to work with you. But it's my job to kind of bring that into the realm that we now have to exist within, especially if you're going to run things like Facebook ads, because I promise you, your competitors are not that altruistic. KinderCare, while there might be nice people working over there, they're churning and burning their ads, and they're monitoring their key performance indicators, and they know exactly what their cost per acquisition is, and their conversion rate is, and their close rate, and their retention rate, and their ascension rate. We need to be that sophisticated. If we want to help more children, and we truly do want Montessori for every child, which I think is what we all want, then we have to be more efficient, or at least as efficient as the competition. We have a better narrative. We have a better value proposition. We have a better model, but they might be better marketers, and we're out to fix that. And one of the very first steps to do that is to make sure that we're looking at the right numbers, monitoring the right set of information. There's a saying that I actually have written up on the wall of my office. It says, the path is in the math. And a variation of that you might have heard is, that which is measured is managed. So when we're running marketing campaigns, it's really important that we measure the right things, and we measure them in the right way, and we take action on them in the right way. And I don't want this to be a daunting process. That's why you have us. That's why you have Nido Marketing. Even if you're not a paying subscriber, if you're one of our first plan subscribers and you're taking advantage of our free assets, that's great. And we're going to help arm you with the information necessary to make some of these decisions without, making some of the missteps that somebody who's new to it might make. So hopefully we can help you with that. If you have any questions, please feel free to, ask us in the Facebook group or in the forum. I'd love to assist with any of these marketing initiatives. Facebook is messy. And Facebook is not going to work for every school. There's been a little bit of an aggressive push in this market in particular with people trying to paint Facebook as though it's a magic bullet. It's not. It's been wildly successful for us. At Bergamo, we've been able to produce tours at south of $70 a tour, which is great. It's a great data point. Um, but it doesn't work for all four of our schools the same way. Not all of the parents that come in tend to be mission appropriate. Some of them end up being no shows. And further than that, different geographies are going to be different. Different geographies are going to yield different results and produce a different type of parent. And each new program we run is a new learning lesson. And there will be areas where Facebook just does not perform. And it's the job of whoever's running your marketing to tell you that. They shouldn't be selling you on Facebook. They should be experimenting with you. It's not them and Facebook, versus you. It's you and them versus Facebook, if I can contextualize it that way. So anyway, I'm rambling, which is not unusual. It's kind of my favorite thing to do. Those are the two articles I wanted to bring up here on office hours. I also wanted to touch on our resources section. We have a ton of amazing stuff available to our members. All of these white papers, they were written by a trained Montessorian. This is all content that has been in use at Bergamo schools. So it's been vetted, so to speak, if you will, and they're available to you. In addition, we have the stock photo library, depending on your membership level. And we also have this really nifty resources page. This is a master list of Montessori articles that we've compiled, websites, resources, books, videos. If you have anything that you ever want to add to this, please let us know. If there's something that you've created, an association has created, friend and family, something that would be a benefit to our members, we'd love the information and any help that you can provide in building this list of assets, because we really want to be able to provide it to our member base and promote the right content, the folks that are putting out the good stuff that we can all benefit from. We want to make sure that they get the exposure that they deserve. So the resources section is something I'd love for you to review. In addition to that, if you're a second plane member, you have social posts, please use these. Maintaining a social presence is really important for a Montessori school, because you want your parents to know that you're engaged. And what's cool about the social posts that we're providing is they're pre-written. So for instance, it's February 23rd now. It's not too late for you to go schedule your March social posts. Jump in here, download the document, and I'm going to pull this up just so you can see it. We have pre-written the social posts for every single day. Now you can pre-schedule these if you like. You can jump in every day and just post it. It takes just a second to copy and paste. And you'll notice that it's not pitchy. We're not, self-promoting here. What we're doing is we're providing value using other people's content. So this is a really good example, Montessori for Everyone. And this is a great article. You don't have to use all of this. You can customize it, modify it, change it, make it your own, add additional context, or you might find something you disagree with, which is perfectly fine. If two people agree on anything, one of them is unnecessary. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's something I tell my staff all the time. And as Montessorians, we have a whole group of free thinkers here. So I would anticipate this, hopefully just being the catalyst for your brainstorming. So we've done the hard work. The hard part's done. And now that you have this content available to you, go in and schedule your social posts. Here's the benefit. And it's multifaceted, multi-tiered. The first one is when people do like you on Facebook, or they're following you on Twitter, if you have a Twitter account, they're going to see some of the content you post. Now, statistically, they only see about 3 to 5% of that content, but that's okay. That just means that you need to post every single day. It's about repetition and getting in the habit. I love the Aristotle quote that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is a habit, not an act. I think we need to be in the habit of doing the things that we know are going to help our school. This is going to establish you as a thought leader. It's going to place relevant content and relevant information in front of existing parents. This is a really good opportunity to nurture parents on an ongoing basis. One of the biggest struggles we face as Montessorians is sending people into the kindergarten year. And incidentally, I need to stop saying that I speak about myself as though I'm a trained Montessorian. I'm not. That's an inappropriate way to contextualize it. But I'm familiar with quite a bit in the way of the content, which is why I've been saying that. But one of the biggest struggles I've heard Montessorians discuss with me is trying to articulate the value of elementary school programs. And that's oftentimes, if you have an elementary school program where we're losing our students, is in that transition. And the wrong way to approach marketing that is, 2 days before they need to enroll for your elementary program. Instead, what you really want to do is you want to start planting those seeds now with small, bite-sized pieces of information. And that can go out through your email nurture, that can go up on your blogs, that can go out in your newsletters, that can be information that you provide in the classroom, and it's social snippets. As I'm a parent and I'm on Facebook or I'm on LinkedIn and I'm scrolling through my news feed, and all of a sudden it says, "Hey, the importance of the kindergarten year," which, by the way, is a blog we wrote for our members in March. That could be vitally important for planting the right seed. That could be vitally important for getting a parent just thinking along those lines. Like, oh, I didn't think about that. I sort of looked at Montessori as preschool only. And now's the time to begin giving them that information. And social media is the perfect conduit through which to do it because it's unassuming. If you force a white paper in my hand and it's 14 pages long, that's going to be tough for me to read. It's still a good asset to have because when I come to you and begin asking you questions, that's when you want, the big heavy hitting content. But until then, when, I haven't really thought about it yet, or I'm not really in a heavy nurture state yet, one of the best places to put content like this is on social media. So again, you don't have to use the content that we provided verbatim. I'd ask you to customize it. Actually, I think you're going to be better off doing so. But I would love to see you using it because I think it's going to be just epic amounts of value for your school. And I'm sorry if I'm overstating things. I get really excited about them. If you are a third plane member, I've noticed we have a few third plane members on the call actually. Available to you are the monthly content packets. And so you have emails that we've created. We've written one email for every single week, and they're very quick. They're email newsletters that you can, should you choose, just send out to your parents and say, hey, here's a quick update, and we just want to let you know what's going on. And they're all, again, written by a trained Montessorian, so they're Montessori specific. I would ask you to customize these as well. If you have events that are coming up at your school, include them in the events section. If you've hired a new guide, or you have an award that you just won, or everybody just came back from the AMI refresher course, or whatever it is, let people know what's going on. This is your opportunity to build relationships. Digital marketing is relationship building online. And, oftentimes, especially for people that haven't been exposed to it their entire professional lives, that's sort of a hard concept to grasp because you're used to, see it, feel it, touch it, sort of look somebody in the eye, shake their hand, which, of course, there's merit to that approach, but there's also some merit to this one. There's merit to the idea that somebody's inbox is an intimate place. If you've landed in somebody's inbox, if you have permission to email them, you're in their pocket. You're in front of their eyes, in a way that allows you to build a one-on-one relationship the same way you could or would if you were sitting in their den having coffee together or tea, depending on your caffeinated preference. So don't squander that opportunity. Send emails. You don't have to send an email every week. Some people think that's a little excessive. I totally understand. But as long as you're providing value, I think that you're allowed to use the email address that you've been given permission to use. And so I'd ask you to send an email once a month at a minimum. And if you do have the updates to provide, send them once a week. And again, we've made it easy for you. We've written the templates. So are you going to agree with everything we've written? No, I hope not. I hope that you're freewheeling and you're going to customize it for yourself. But again, we've kind of done the hard work. So on that exact same note, for our third and fourth plane members, here are the blogs that we've written. And they're awesome. This is my favorite one of this month, Montessori and Peace Education. I just think this is amazing content. I'm so pleased with it. I'm really happy with our writer. I think she's done an amazing job. And once again, you don't need to use this exact content. You don't need to agree with everything. You can customize it, chop it up, provide your own, input. Make sure to provide additional imagery if you have imagery from your school. I'd strongly encourage that. But what this does is it allows you to post something to your site that, again, begins establishing you as a thought leader. It's an excuse to post on social media. It's an excuse to send out a newsletter to your parents. And it sort of, helps position you in their mind as somebody that they go to for information. And I've stayed on this topic far too long. I'm sorry. I beat that horse to death. Forgive the analogy. So without any further ado, I'm going to pause real quick for questions. We've got a few people on the call today. Does anybody have any questions they want to lob in? You can chat them into the little chat box. Camille asks, do you recommend posting the social posts on both Facebook and Twitter? This is such a great question, and it's one of my favorite topics, and so I'm going to get a little passionate. I'm so sorry. I don't think Montessori schools should be using Twitter unless you plan on contributing to the national conversation. I don't think that we're going to do any lead generation from Twitter. I don't think that your parents are really the Twitter avatar, to be frank. Um, I don't see a ton of value in Twitter. Now, with that said, Bergamo Schools uses Twitter, and I've seen some Montessori schools use Twitter successfully. But um, Twitter is more for large scale, sort of regional, national, and global conversations. So if you plan on contributing to things like that, if the Global World Summit is having a discussion on education, and you want your blogs or your school or something featured, and you want to start kind of tweeting at or about that, then Twitter becomes powerful. But Twitter as a local, kind of geo-specific organization, I just don't see the value in it as much as I do Facebook. Now, if it's easy for you to do and it only takes a second, there's definitely some potential link juice you can get out of it. And what I mean by link juice is Google crawls content that exists on sites, and then looks for links back to websites. And so you building that brand and that presence could be helpful. But I don't think you're going to do a ton of lead generation off of Twitter. So if Twitter is difficult for you to cultivate for any reason, it's something that I think Montessori schools can afford to ignore. I hope I don't eat those words one day. But if you're posting to Facebook already, I noticed that there's actually a connection between the two. I think Twitter can post automatically to Facebook or vice versa. I forget which. Then I think you can use both. But my preference, to be frank, is Facebook. Standalone as a content network. And interestingly, I think that you can benefit from using LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is a different animal. LinkedIn, you're not necessarily going to post from your business page because people don't engage with business pages quite the same way on LinkedIn. You'd be posting from your personal LinkedIn profile, and you'd be working to build your network with other people. And it's interesting in the Montessori realm because you're going to be adding parents to your LinkedIn profile. And then those parents are going to see you establishing yourself as a thought leader. So it's really no longer quite as much about your school as it is you, the administrator, the marketing manager. And once again, it's just an opportunity to kind of establish thought leadership, which is so vitally important, especially in this industry. As Montessorians, you need to be thought leaders. If you're going to assume the role of educator for my child, I need to know that you're, at the forefront, at the vanguard of whatever it is that's going on in the realm of education. And so, establish yourself as a thought leader, in my mind, is just as important as it is in the potential prospect. And I think LinkedIn is a really good place to do that. But LinkedIn can also be a little cumbersome too. And I'm sorry, Camille, I just went off on a tangent. I do think that Facebook is the preferential network. If you can afford to cultivate Instagram, you should absolutely do so. Instagram is where mommy is. The vast majority of all the data we have available to us shows us that Instagram is very female driven, and moms tend to make at least the catalytic decisions when it comes to which schools to tour. The issue that we run into with Instagram in terms of our ability to assist you is Instagram is very, very, very image heavy, and Instagram is allergic to stock posts. So if you try to use stock photography on Instagram, best case scenario, people ignore you. Worst case scenario, they're repelled by you. Instagram only works if you have custom imagery, and you need to get your tagging strategy. There's some pretty interesting strategic approaches you can take in using hashtags on Instagram because people search Instagram by phrases. And so if you were to tag it Montessori school or preschool or some of the activities, if you wanted to tag. Especially things that people can do at home. That's a great way to get the Instagram visibility. But Instagram, again, can be sort of more of a non-localized network. So you need to make sure you're adding geotags in there as well. But I do think that Facebook is the one network. If we were to choose one and commit, it would be Facebook in my mind. I hope I answered your question. Anybody else have anything before we move on from the content? Anything else you want to lob in there? If you do, feel free to chat it in. We can always loop back around to a topic too. I know sometimes I go really fast, which is one of my professional failings. I wanted to mention in the resources section that when you're logged into the members area, we have two forms. We have a feedback form and we have a suggestions and idea form. Um, and I think Camille, you being the class favorite today, you sent in a suggestion recently for an article on Montessori math. Um, and I'm happy to report that that is in our content schedule, and that's going to be delivered in the month of March for distribution in April. Um, and I bring that up because A, really grateful to you for participating in that way. That's really helpful. And B, I just want to let everybody know that um, anything you need from an asset standpoint, we want to know about. Um, we have the wherewithal to create, content, imagery, videos in some cases potentially, especially animated videos. So infographics, media presentations, downloads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we want to create those assets for our members because we want more members and we want people to be members forever. And the best way for us to create those assets instead of kind of shooting in the dark, we've created all the assets that, or not all of them, but we've created a lot of assets for our own school, of course. But I would anticipate our members having needs that maybe they haven't articulated because they didn't even realize that this was available to them. But if you want something done, something written or something created, please let us know. I can't promise that we're going to be able to create everything, of course, but it's so much better if we have somebody who's kind of helping us point our muzzle instead of just creating, sort of screaming into the dark and hoping that it finds light at some point. So thank you again for that. I really appreciate it. We also have a feedback form available to you. If there's anything that you think we can do better with the courses or the forums or the assets or any of those things, we'd love the opportunity to improve. We're brand new. Nido launched in January. We're not even 2 months old. We already have 200 members, which is great. We're growing like wildfire, and we're so excited. But we want to be better, and we never want to skirt our responsibility to you. And I think one of the best ways for us to do that is to make sure that we're constantly soliciting ongoing feedback. So those are available. We talked about the blogs a little bit. Let me just glance at my schedule here. And I didn't have any submitted questions, so now it's time for me to cover any more live questions that you have. I also have the ability to turn the presenter role over to someone. So if you're interested in presenting or asking a question via webcam, we can take over your computer as well, and you can show me anything you're struggling with. I'd be happy to walk you through any of your issues. And feel free to chat those in. I'm going to transition on to Calendly in just a moment. We had one of our members come up with the idea of using Calendly for not just for school tours, but also for individual classrooms, which I think is brilliant. And I want to bring up, I actually kind of want to build a course around it once I'm able to interview her about how she did what she did. But Calendly's free version, which is what we encourage everybody to use, allows you to create one event type. And then that event type will give you the opportunity to let people schedule tours. Well, Calendly's paid version is really cost effective. I think it's $10 a month per user. And if you don't need many users, you get a whole lot out of that. So, and we're not Calendly resellers, by the way. We're not affiliates. We probably should be, but yeah, $8 a month per user. And you get unlimited event types. Well, what's cool about unlimited event types is you now have the opportunity to use Calendly in different contexts. So you can, you have open houses, or you want the ability to schedule out, different rooms. Calendly becomes sort of an internal process management utility as well as a tour booking utility. You can have private events that people don't see publicly, but only you see. One of the things I use Calendly for is if people want to schedule phone calls with us. And you can do that as well. You can actually do that with internally within your staff or for your board or for your parents. One thing that occurs to me is that when you're sending out these emails to your parents, you might want to give them the chance to schedule time to speak with you. Now, some of you might have just cringed just then. I don't run a Montessori school, so I don't know how hard that may or may not be. But, as we were brainstorming ideas within Calendly, you can create a 15-minute check-in and just say, hey, just wanted everybody to know, this is what's going on. This is what we're planning on doing. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to schedule some time with me. This is important for us, and we want to make sure that we're, keeping our finger to the pulse, something along those lines. Your guides can send out information directly to parents with something very similar too, and you can have a Calendly event that's, specific to them. And what's really cool about Calendly is you can integrate multiple calendars. So Calendly can draw from and reconcile from multiple calendars just to kind of keep everybody on the same page. So really, really cool implementation. I was just so impressed and really glad that we have some awesome thought leadership coming from our members. I'd love to know if anybody else comes up with, if there's other stuff you're using, other tools and um, apps or whatever it is, web-based applications that are working for you. I'd love to hear about it. One tool that we found recently is Shutterfly has a classroom app that's free to use. It's a little buggy, to be frank. Again, we're not Shutterfly resellers. But what's nice about it is it doesn't cost you a thing. And it allows you to have kind of a intranet, so to speak, to communicate with parents, share photos, have a public calendar. And I think the reason Shutterfly makes this available for free is they're just trying to sell pictures. So when you share imagery with parents, the parents then have the opportunity to buy prints directly from the app. And of course, Shutterfly gets paid for that. So kind of a pretty effective trade-off, to be frank. I mean, it's not pitchy at all. I downloaded the app myself and sort of played around with it. It's not intrusive. I don't feel like it's constantly asking me for something, but it gives you the ability to provide a pretty exceptional value add and makes your school look pretty cool too. The app is branded, so it's branded with your school's brand, name, logo, etc. It's pretty lightweight. I didn't feel like it bogged down my phone, and I was impressed. So we're going to create some assets and courses around this, but that's probably not going to come up towards the middle or end of this year. But I just wanted to bring it up on the call because it's something to float past. I'm also curious as to whether or not anybody has any experience with it or has used it, because that would be helpful context as well. And that's all I have. I love these. I love the office hours. I really love the opportunity to speak with you directly. Can't tell you how much I appreciate the questions when you have them, and feel free, please, to use this as a resource. In anything you're running into, we can hop on the office hours and go through some of these problems together. And I promise you that will do nothing more than help other people, other schools who might not be quite as vocal about some of their issues. So, you know what? Actually, one of the things I wanted to touch on, Camille, was the Mailchimp problem that you brought up, which I was really grateful to you. You actually taught me something about Mailchimp, and there are multiple lists, and the fact that you can't send one broadcast to multiple lists, which is super annoying. But I think that's a good example. You sort of helped further our thought leadership by teaching us specific implementation that we need to find a workaround for. So thank you for that, and really grateful to you. I'm going to hang the line for another minute or two just to see if there are any more questions coming in. Anything at all, as long as it pertains to digital marketing or movie trivia, because I happen to be brilliant at that. But other than those two topics, I really know next to nothing, as my staff will attest to. And I think that's it. I'm going to wrap this up then. You guys, thank you so much for being Nido members and subscribers. If you're watching the recorded version, feel free to hop into the members area and kind of follow along. And that's all I have. Don't forget that we have, this happens every week. So we have another one coming up Friday at 10:30 Pacific. And the link is always the same. It's always nidomarketing.com/office hours. You can't forget it. And again, grateful to you all. Thanks so much.